Hi, I'm Martyn Sibley, the community leader at Open Inclusion. Welcome to our podcast series, Inclusive Design, Broader Perspectives for Better Experiences, which is also available as a caption podcast on Open Inclusion's YouTube channel. Open Inclusion is a research, user insight, design and innovation consultancy based in London, England. We help organisations create beautifully inclusive and effective experiences. If you would like to know more about the work we do or would like to contact us, please visit openinclusion.com. We would love to hear from you. In this podcast series, we're interviewing a wide range of people who help us better understand inclusion from both a user and a service provider perspective. This episode is the second, all about Purple Tuesday. Now, you may remember last time in the first episode on Purple Tuesday, I interviewed 3 disabled people with very different impairments and different retail experiences. And then we heard from Mike Adams, who is CEO of Purple, and they've created this initiative of Purple Tuesday, all about why they've done it and their hopes and aims for Purple Tuesday itself. So in this episode, I'm going to be talking to people more on the retail side. So first of all, there's going to be Zoe from Marks and Spencer's, and obviously that's going to be a really great insight into what M&S are doing as a big retail company. Then we're going to be talking to Nelly McCabe, the company Nelly McCabe, who really is a beautiful boutique shop up in Glasgow in Scotland, and looking at the things that they're doing for inclusion and accessible shopping. And then lastly, we're going to be hearing from Barclays, which gives a different perspective because they're helping other businesses in the retail industry to be inclusive and accessible. So it's more of a business to business approach. And then finally, we're going to hear from Open's very own Christine Hemphill, who will wrap things up with her thoughts on Purple Tuesday and the landscape at the moment with all of the inclusion going on in the retail industry, and also the initiatives that Open Inclusion are doing to help bring all this amazing mission and vision to become a reality. So I hope you enjoyed the episode, and let's get started. Hey everyone, I'm really excited to have this first interview with Marks and Spencer's. You remember in the last episode we were looking at all sorts of different shopping experiences, and I know that chatting to Zoe today there's going to be lots of helpful insights from the retailer's perspective, and obviously later in the episode we're going to be talking to a variety of different parts of the industry as well. So first and foremost, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
And so I know you're dialing in from London in the Paddington area. Hopefully it's going to be a bit warmer and sunny later on, as you mentioned. The weather's not so good at the moment.
No, currently raining, but I'm sure it'll improve.
But yeah, obviously, really, just to kick off, this whole podcast is about Purple Tuesday. I think it'd be good just to kick off with your thoughts from your perspective, of Marks and Spencer's perspective, about this initiative.
Yeah, of course. I think Purple Tuesday is a fantastic initiative, and at M&S we're absolutely thrilled and delighted to be supporting it next week. I think great to have an initiative in the run-up to Christmas, a real opportunity to ensure that we are able to offer the best possible service for all of our customers at what is a really busy time in retail and in our stores. Personally, working with Mike from Purple, I know this is an initiative that has got a lot of traction across the retail industry, a fantastic range of property owners who are all taking part. And I think an opportunity to work on an initiative that's such a collaboration across retail is fantastic, and hopefully will lead to an even bigger impact to customers who have disability and accessibility needs, who will be visiting our stores both next Tuesday but also ongoing. This isn't for us, Purple Tuesday is not just one day. It's about both promoting what we already are doing around accessibility. It's about introducing some new initiatives and refreshing some initiatives, and it's about making sure that moving forward we continue to be and continuing to improve regarding accessibility and inclusion in our stores and online as well.
Yeah, I think that's really important, the point you made about it's not just one day, because I know some of the disabled community have had that as a concern, that it's like, why should we only have one day that's accessible? But I think that does miss the point, that it's about putting it in the public eye, raising awareness, but as you say, that the businesses can build on that going forward as well.
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree.
So in terms of, I mean, obviously, you know, Purple Tuesday is one day. There's a lot of publicity coming around it, lots of things going on. But from your point of view at Marks and Spencer's, why do you feel that accessibility and inclusion is important from a business perspective?
So at Marks and Spencer, we really strive to make every moment special for the customer, and we know that our customers are individuals and they have lots of different requirements and needs, and it's really important that we can address those needs. We have over 20 million visitors to our stores each week, so accessibility of our stores and our website is really, really important to us. Purple Tuesday gives us a fantastic opportunity to increase awareness and understanding of the challenges that our disabled customers face, so that we can improve the shopping experience for not only them, but also our customers more generally.
That's fantastic. And yeah, congratulations for embracing it, because what you've said is that disabled people are customers, and so whatever our needs are, you want to make sure they're being addressed, and it's actually that simple. But, you know, clearly the reason for this initiative is that not everyone does think that way. So it's very enlightening to hear that that's going on with M&S, and obviously lots of other retailers are going that way too. So I mean, in terms of like tangible examples, can you think of anything specifically that you've done in the past year or two that has been able to address a particular kind of need of disabled people?
So a couple of examples, one that I'm more close to, so I can talk about a bit more confidently, but another one that I want to raise, is it's a fantastic initiative. So firstly, we were the first retailer to launch Disable Go access guides for all of our stores. So now rebranded Accessible as of a couple of weeks ago. But every one of our stores has an access guide, an accessibility guide online that gives information about the accessibility of that store. And really exciting that's across all of our estate, our wholly owned estate, but also a number of our franchise partners have also started getting accessibility guides for their stores as well, so that we've got continuity across our own stores and our franchise stores, which is fantastic. And as part of Purple Tuesday, we are looking to introduce a new sign in our store entrances, which will be a QR code that will be able to take you directly to the landing page on Accessable's website to promote those accessibility guides more, because we've had a lot of feedback that often the barrier for somebody with an accessibility need going and visiting store isn't how accessible it is, but it's just being aware of the environment that they're going to approach and meet when they get there, and then able to plan their trip accordingly. So that's one great piece of work led by our retail colleagues that we're really, really proud of. Another piece of work that has been another piece of work that we've done recently is our e-range. So that was launched in the autumn. It's been developed in part. Children from the House Design team has worked with a consultant paediatrician to understand how we can make our clothing suitable for children with a variety of accessibility and disability needs. It's a fantastic project. It built on the work that we did around our easy dressing school uniform, which was in consultation with the National Autistic Society. And I know it's something that our Kids Wear team are incredibly proud of. And I think it's a great example. We can use our product to support children who may have accessibility or disability needs. So really, really proud of that particular piece of work. Albeit I can't say that I've had any direct involvement with it, but the team, I'm not a product designer, but the teams that did have done a fantastic job on that.
Oh, that's amazing. So really the two key areas are the helping people to be able to plan their journey and know that the accessibility needs are going to be covered, because they can check in advance of, when they're going to the shop. And then the second area is the fact that you're looking at making the clothes more adapted or accessible for certain types of disabilities. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
really great work going on there. So really, last but not least, looking to the future, are there any particular things you're allowed and able to share at the moment with the future plans?
Yeah, definitely. So Purple Tuesdays is next week, and we've used this as a bit of an opportunity to look at what we're doing across retail and the estate. We did some insight looking at all of our customer insights. So we have, I'm sure you'll be aware, lots of customers contact us through various channels to share what they think about our stores, our products, etc. And we did some research over the summer, and it really identified sort of two key areas that we should focus on. One was colleague interaction. So where customers engage with colleagues, there was a real positive response if that was a positive experience. And secondly, there was a lot of feedback around our store environment. So we've focused on those two areas based on what our customers are saying. So from a colleague interaction piece, we are working close. I've been working closely with our customer service team, and we've refreshed our disability training for all of our customer service assistants, and that will be launched into store on Monday. And what that does is it's a new team brief, and it gives some scenarios about different so it gives a bit of a background about Purple Tuesday, and then it gives some scenarios that teams can work through on how to engage and support customers who may have different accessibility needs. So that's going out on Tuesday, which is really exciting. Hopefully that will touch every single colleague in our stores and I think that's really highlighting that point around how colleagues can support our customers. Secondly, we in our new stores, in our stores for the last few years, we've been installing not every disability is visible signs to highlight highlight hidden disabilities onto our accessible toilets. But as no doubt you'll be aware, we have a very ranging estate in terms of age of stores. So whilst that's fantastic to cover our new stores, we were conscious that some of our existing stores wouldn't have had that signage. So this week we've rolled out some additional signage to go onto our accessible toilets that not only state not every disability is visible, but also give reference to whether it is a right hand or a left hand transfer toilet. So they'll be going out to stores this week. And finally, I've briefly mentioned the QR code signage that will be going on into our store windows to inform customers about our accessibility guides. That will be rolled out, so just post Purple Tuesday. So in the next few weeks, that will go into stores. So after Purple Tuesday, which will hopefully highlight to our customers that we have these accessibility guides across the estate, that they're able to review and understand how they could navigate that store as and when they visit. So there are sort of our plans in store. We also am keen to promote the fantastic work that my colleagues in HR do regarding the employability programme to support employing colleagues with disability, and that we're in discussion about how we promote that, and that will also form a big part of our commitment to International Day of Disability on the 3rd of December.
Wow, there's loads going on. That's fantastic.
It is busy. I think, for me it's about it's really about how do we deliver across the whole estate, do a few initiatives, but across the whole estate. I know that I've got colleagues in stores that are really engaged on this topic and are doing kind of quite local level initiatives, linking in with local charities, local organisations to support local customers, which is fantastic. But for me, it's about how do we make sure there is at least a basic understanding of training, etc., across the whole estate.
Well, there's some really amazing stuff going on there. Obviously, I hope that everything goes well for Purple Tuesday and beyond, and I look forward to catching up again soon.
Thank you, and thank you very much for asking us onto your podcast, and look forward to hearing it live soon.
So our next interview is with Rosie Martin from Nelly McCabe. It's going to be a really interesting chat because Rosie runs a boutique business, a smaller business. And so obviously the challenges and the things to consider are going to be different from a large multinational company. So without further ado, I'll pass over to you, Rosie. And first of all, thank you for joining us today on the podcast. It's great to have you here.
Welcome. I'm Rosie Martin. I'm the owner of Nelly McCabe Independent Fashion Boutique. We are based in a little village on the outskirts of Glasgow. I opened the business in August last year, and we stock small independent boutique labels from mostly Danish, London designs. And our customer is, from 16 years old to 100 and 116. When I opened the business, some of the things we were looking at were the access into the shop. We have a DDA compliant ramp with handrails, and we have the texturized copes in the front of the shop, and we also have the kind of double swing doors. And our customers, we do have, I couldn't really particularly put a percentage on it because it's not something that I've really monitored, but we do have customers that come in that use wheelchairs, that use walking frames, that use hearing impaired, a lot of different hidden disabilities as well. And we have, it's mostly me that's in the shop. And I have maybe a friend or a family member to help out, and we have a huge kind of changing room which allows either a twin buggy or a wheelchair access in and out. And we've moved the rails around the shop as well to make sure that there's space for the wheelchairs to flow round easily, so great access all round. And these what you would call kind of adjustments aren't really any major adjustment, and didn't really cost any money.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people think having the adjustments are going to cost a lot more money, and of course there is a cost, but it's really interesting to hear you say that it wasn't that extortionate amount that made it prohibitive, that it was things that you did that made a big difference to some of your customers, but it didn't break the bank either.
No, absolutely not. And I would also say that the benefits of these, what you would invisible almost adjustments, benefits all our customers, all our mums that are coming in with the prams. They can come up the ramp without having to kind of try and get quite a substantial buggy or pram up a set of steps, and they can negotiate quite easily all the way around the store, and also they can wheel the child in buggy or into a twin pram or what have you into the changing room to get changed, so they've got the children with them. So there is the benefits as well, so it kind of benefits everyone, I suppose. There is obviously further adjustments that I would say that I'll put a plan in place to kind of try and get them implemented over the course of maybe 6 months, a year, or 2 years, and it depends obviously on how far I want to take it. And I think that we things like maybe having an automated door, the cost of that, would it be prohibitive? Probably not. Things like I have learned sign language when I was younger. Bit rusty on it. There's things there that I can say good morning and good evening, and I can do the alphabet, but there's things that would also benefit me in life elsewhere outside the business. So being able to maybe try and build up that skill again would be great. And as I say, I have customers that come in that are hearing impaired as well. So, you know, that would be nice to be able to have that conversation without them having to really lip read me. And yeah, there's a few things, you know, you're thinking, well, you know, and again, doesn't cost any money.
Yeah, that's really interesting too. I know when we were talking before, you mentioned about being a smaller business, the people that help you in the shop to serve the customers, you're very mindful of who helps you and to make sure that they're going to be able to give the right customer service. And I'd imagine as long as they've got that thoughtful attitude for all the customers, that's going to really benefit those that do have additional needs.
Absolutely, Martin. And that's something that I am fiercely protective of as my customer. I want any customer that walks in that door to be treated with the utmost respect. I wouldn't want somebody that wasn't emotionally or, you know, mature enough to be able to or experienced enough not to be able to deal with anything. And I think that's where that's always been my concern. So I have within the store, it's usually a family member who has had experiences of, you know, people with, whether it's a hidden disability or disability. My friends who again are also, you know, experienced and compassionate and respectful, and I think that goes a long way to and when I talk about hidden disabilities, it's, you know, or, you know, there is a disability element of it, but, you know, we're a ladies boutique, and we have ladies that come in that wouldn't normally shop in a major high street store because they have issues that can't be seen, things like double mastectomies, different kind of bags that have been attached, makes the changing room experience not very helpful. If there's no one there to help them, or somebody to say, oh, Rosie, can you see the scars? With this dress, could you help me, or help me? You know, it's that kind of experience that we want our customers to feel great and to feel good about coming shopping, and I think we do achieve that. And again, that doesn't cost. That there's no cost associated with that. That's just having the right attitude.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. I know one other area that we've talked about, just generally on the podcast and in life with all the community of disabled people that I speak with regularly, that one of the difficulties can be, particularly for someone like myself in a wheelchair with weaker body, the actual being able to pay for something. So do you have any, like, I mean, maybe contactless might be one way that would make it easier, but I'd also imagine that the way you've explained your customer service, you would be very happy and able to assist me with doing the payment if that was a difficulty for me.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have 2 card machines in here. We have a fixed terminal which is on a wire that can be handed over on the counter and long enough for reach, and we also have a mobile one which can actually just be handed to the person and they can use that at their leisure like they would use a mobile phone. Yeah. So we have two pay. Yes,
that's great. That's good. I'll have to pop in next time.
So we have that. We have that. Yes, please do. We have that. We have the options for the payment, and yeah.
That's perfect. Well, listen, Rosie, I think we're sort of coming to the end of the time we've got to chat. I'm sure we could chat all day. There's so many interesting things that you've been doing. I think really just to end it off, it'd be great for anyone watching, whether they're a large, retailer or a small family or individual retailer, what would your message be to them about being accessible for disabled consumers?
Lovely. Thank you, Martyn. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
And have you got any final words for the people to sort of give an encouragement to other retailers?
Certainly. I think the message is that there is so many things that you can do that do not require huge investment. Even if you're looking across a national chain where you've got hundreds of stores, things like your rails and having the space and having the attendance in a fitting room, having the access, the ramps, the doors, all of these. Like, the ramp was built when I was having the work done. So the ramp was built, it wasn't an afterthought. And it's always hard to retrospectively do things, but going forward, make that part of your plan. And just really think, maybe, unless you've really experienced how traumatic it can be with somebody, that's less able to, in a wheelchair, and you're trying to shop, or I think that's when it really you become extremely aware. And as I say, going back to the kind of the positives, there's so many things you can do that cost nothing at all.
Very
it's
well.
Just really think through. So
great. Thank you for your time, Rosie, and we'll see you again soon.
Thanks, Martyn. Thank you.
Our next interview is with Ian Gilmartin, who is head of retail and the corporate side of Barclays Bank. And this is going to be a little bit of a change from the previous interviews, where we've been looking very much at the business to consumer aspect, because Ian and Barclays are, with Purple Tuesday, looking to help other businesses. So it's a B2B scenario. So thank you for joining me today, Ian. And it'd be great just to kick off really with what yourself and Barclays are up to with Purple Tuesday, and well, first of all, what you think of the initiative.
Okay, hi Martin, good to see you. So in terms of Purple Tuesday, really the background to this is that we've been working alongside Mike Adams on the Ministerial Disability Retail Forum. And really what it's about is making sure that the sector is accessible to all, okay? And Purple Tuesday was an initiative that Mike kind of tabled probably about 18 months ago. And really we've been working with him, giving kind of our ideas around when the best time to have it is, about engaging with retailers, not just not just the big guns, but also kind of right across the piece. And again, not just in terms of high street, but also online, in terms of really kind of making this stick. Okay, and what it's about awareness. Okay, and making sure that the shopping experience is really accessible to all. And having worked, from our own perspective and as an institution, in terms of particularly on our branch network, making sure that our branches are accessible. We really felt that we had something to offer here, and that it was a really good initiative. So that's why we've kind of really got behind it.
Yeah, that's great. So actually, your involvement has come from very early on, while it was being dreamt up with Mike and talking with the government and the steering group that you're involved in. So that's really interesting.
That's right. Cool. And the other thing is that because we are sector focused, okay, so I look after the retail and wholesale sector across the UK and Ireland, and that's businesses that have sales of anywhere from 5 million right up to your kind of FTSE 100 type clients. So it's such a broad spectrum, okay? And because we're sector focused, and my sector is the retail sector, we really felt that we were in a position to promote the initiative, to talk to our customers about it, and really kind of get behind it, and hopefully it'll be a success and a bit more depth.
Sure. Well, as we know, the whole thing about inclusion and accessibility, something, I'm a wheelchair user, so I experience barriers every day, and of course, in there's many other people in society with different impairments and different barriers, but the big aim is to pull these barriers down and to enable disabled people to not be disabled, just to be enabled people. So I mean, for you at Barclays, when you're working with other businesses in this sector, why do you feel that inclusive business is good for business as well?
I mean, good question. I mean, you know, from a retail perspective, you know, the reality is that no retailer should be turning away, you know, any customer, right, in the current environment. And you know, when you're thinking about the needs of your customers, you should be thinking about all of your customers. And that's effectively what we're kind of, you know, doing here is we're saying, look, you know, disability isn't just about you know, people in wheelchairs and what you can actually see, right? I mean, we know about kind of hearing or sight or mobility or whatever it is, but you know, there's so many you know, other disabilities that are unseen. Okay, whether it's dyslexia, you know, autism, ADHD, etc. And you know, it is about awareness and it's about training. Okay? So you know, one of the key messages that we try and get across is that, you know, are you training your staff to really think about these things? Okay. The other aspect of it is that, you know, it goes beyond legislation and regulations. You know, clearly there's some legislation out there that you know, points retailers in terms of what they should be looking to do, but it really is beyond that, right? Because I mean, I don't know how many times I've gone into stores and I've seen you know, the disabled changing room just full of boxes or, you know, railings and stuff like that, and they're not actually being accessible at all, right? But it's right down to kind of, you know, price tags, things like the you know, being able to kind of pay at the tills and maneuver around the store. So I mean, it's so broad that it really is something that retailers should be thinking about, and it's beyond you know, the pure economic benefits. I mean, clearly, you know, we've been talking about the purple pound now for a good few years in terms of its size, and you know, in terms of the UK, I think we've got something like 11 million disabled people in the UK, and economic research believes that, you know, that their kind of annual spend is something like 249 billion, right, just in the UK. So that's pretty significant in anybody's books. So if somebody's ignoring you know, that aspect of the business, more for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, these numbers are changing all the time. I think I saw something on the charity scope that there's potentially 13 million now. Obviously, it depends how it's classified, but and also Open Inclusion got hold of some research that said it's 265 billion now. So the population of disabled people is increasing and the economic value is increasing. So it's clearly a no-brainer that businesses should want to be open for business for those people.
Absolutely right, and then, you know, not only that, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, exactly. So in terms of this inaugural year of Purple Tuesday, what activities are Barclays doing in support of it?
So what we've been doing is we've actually been, so I talked about the scale of our business ranging from 5 million revenue businesses up to, you know, the super big clients. And really what we've done is we held a series of briefings internally, kind of back when the date was set with Mike. And it was about me raising awareness internally with our relationship directors who face off to the clients. So we told them all about it. We kind of gave them a mini pack to talk to with their customers, just to say this has been launched, and it was just another angle to come at the retailers from. And given that we're sector focused, we really thought that actually we can talk directly to the decision makers and, you know, talk about why we back it and what we're doing internally ourselves in terms of disability. But really just kind of getting behind it with a bit more, you know, oomph, I guess.
Yeah, so sort of raising awareness to the stakeholders of what it's all about and why it's important.
That's absolutely right, you know, and it's not only do we do that internally in terms of telling our relationship directors about it and going out to clients, but we've also included it in terms of our marketing channels, and you know, we send out you know, weekly newsletters and things like that, and we've got, you know, tagged it onto to some of that messaging as well. So it's got a good voice from us.
That's great. That's really good to hear. And in terms of like tangible actions or support, I'm thinking more of the businesses that you support in the sector. Is there anything specifically that you're doing to empower and support them under the banner of Purple Tuesday?
So what we've done is we've got various kind of collateral, if you like, and you know, marketing documentation around what we've done in terms of accessibility ourselves. Okay, so we've set up an accessibility portal. So that's under barclayscorporate.com/accessibility, and it's available to all individuals and businesses, and it's free to use. And there's quite a lot of interesting stuff on there, such as tips on terms of getting started, things like inclusive design, inclusive customer service, these type of areas. And it's that awareness and assistance in terms of what we've learned from the branch network, right? So from our point of view, we were looking at things like ATMs, okay, and thinking, well, if you're kind of visually impaired, how are you going to deal with an ATM? So we've now installed some talking ATMs, for example, where it's, you know, you can actually speak to the ATM and tell them what you want to do. There's clearly braille and things like that. Something like 98% of our branches in the retail network are now accessible, and we're hoping to nudge that higher. So, you know, we do have stuff that we can share, and so it's not just about Purple Tuesday, it's about the broader accessibility agenda for us.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So yeah, thank you for your time, really, and I think we've covered everything I wanted to chat to you about. I think it's amazing the way you're leading the way in the banking sector for accessibility, but now trying to drive that through to different sectors as well, and exciting to see how Purple Tuesday goes in November.
Great. Well, we're hoping it's going to be a great success, and you know, we'll regroup afterwards, and hopefully it'll be firmly in the calendar on look forward.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time, Ian. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mark. Cheers, mate.
So our last piece on this two-part podcast episode is all about Purple Tuesday, is with Christine Hemphill, who is the Managing Director of Open Inclusion. And really, it's going to be a pleasure to chat to you, Christine, and reflect on the two episodes and the bigger thoughts around this amazing initiative that's happening. So I think to kick off, it would just be great to hear your thoughts on why inclusion in retail is so important.
Well, thanks, Martin. I mean, retail is such a fundamental element of society. Everybody wants to, whether it's for social reasons or for need reasons, go out in retail or at home, you know, get the things they want, or out in the stores. So, you know, it is something that we all experience, and everybody wishes to have a good experience in that. That's from the customer side. From the business perspective, it's also incredibly important. If you think about the size of market, 1 in 5 people have a disability, probably about 1 in 3 if you include, you know, all impairments at any one time, so significant impairments that require an access, you know, that have an access need and a bit of difference around it. So this is a very large market. In terms of the value, I mean, everyone's talking about the purple pound, and I'm going to actually make that even bigger today, because the purple pound that keeps getting quoted is the 249 billion figure, which is enormous. It is absolutely enormous. It's even bigger now. We redid this number based off the 2015-16 data last year, so it's still out of date. But it's now 265 billion, which is 15% of the disposable income in the UK.
Wow.
So it's incredibly important for retailers to understand, how do they access that 15%? How do they engage effectively with the customers? and how do they service that market in a really powerful way.
Yeah, well, fantastic. And I mean, the numbers just seem to be going up year on year, so that the opportunities are getting bigger and bigger as we go forward. So moving on to Purple Tuesday. Sorry.
If I can pick up on that, you're absolutely right. Those numbers are going up year on year, and they're going up for two reasons. One, there's just an income growth, so the absolute number will go up. But secondly, there's a growth of the market, and that's due to the ageing population. So with an ageing population, you've got more people living for longer, more people incurring impairments. Unfortunately, our eyes, ears, minds and bodies are still wearing out at a similar age, but we're living with those impairments for longer.
Yeah.
And with increasing distribution skew towards the older population in terms of both wealth, disposable wealth and assets, this is not just a growing market in size, it's a growing market in value. So it is only going to keep going one direction, certainly from now till 2040.
Yeah, and obviously we talk about that spending power as the purple pound, and hence Purple Tuesday. So I'd be really interested to hear what your thoughts are on Purple Tuesday. Is it a good or bad thing? It's only one day in the year, but yeah, it'd be great to hear what you think, Christine.
We obviously think it's a good idea because we've just dedicated 2 podcasts to it. So I think it's a
loaded question.
I'm really pleased to see Mike and the team at Purple with this initiative. I think it's a great opportunity for a couple of reasons. And I suppose, firstly, to talk about the fact that it's one day. And I know some of the, there's been some noise around, well, Purple Tuesday, what happens on Wednesdays? Does that mean it's not a Purple Wednesday?
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of work done really to kind of say, if you're going to make a change as an organisation for Purple Tuesday, commit to a change that is sustainable for the full year. And so I think, that there is an opportunity to think about it, to pause, to reflect, to consider something that can be a meaningful change, and then sustain that change for a period. It's an opportunity for conversations like this one, and some, all the people that have come on the podcast. Those conversations wouldn't have happened without the initiative underpinning it. It's a place for ideas to be shared, and I really love the fact that there's a number of listening posts essentially being created as part of this. One of them being the section on the website where consumers with disabilities can share what their experience is, when it's a really positive experience and when it's that has friction or barriers in it. And if there is friction and barriers, what they think could be done to improve those. So good ideas being shared, opportunity for conversation, a chance to think about it, and then hopefully all of that will kind of wrap around into some increased awareness, understanding and some skills in the organisations.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. I know, often in the past when you talk about activism, there's a stereotype about it being quite feisty and quite angry. And I love that we've been able to still really get stuck in and change things and make the world better, but with a positive can-do tone. And I feel like Purple Tuesday strikes that chord, like the work we've been doing at Open Inclusion as well. And that I think the businesses are receptive to that approach, and they're more wanting to engage and share those ideas as a result as well.
Completely agree. And I think, that I think of it as pushing a piece of string versus pulling a piece of string. Nobody wants to be pushed, and pushing a piece of string is not very effective. If you can draw people into the discussion, into the conversation, into the awareness, and into the kind of some of the how they can improve, people are very happy to, most people want to provide good service. Most organisations want to sell more to more customers. Yeah. This is a fairly kind of obvious discussion to have, and it's a very positive way in which it seems to be happening, which obviously suits our brand and our approach very well.
Absolutely. So how do you think that businesses can interact with Purple Tuesday in a meaningful way?
I think for every business, that answer will be different, because every business has a different starting point. So the first thing is whoever's internal to that organisation, who knows it best and who understands kind of where they're at on that maturity curve of inclusion or you can think of it conversely as who's excluded from their current environments, how they can remove some of those barriers of friction and where the most useful one is for them. From listening to all the podcasts, particularly the three in the last podcast from Julie, Dave, and Shanti, I think the most obvious one is if organisations aren't quite sure what to do, it's really that helping customer service staff learn how to engage really positively, proactively and respectfully from the start with people of any sort of difference. So yes, people with disabilities, but actually just to engage with people, who might look, sound, act differently to them. And that starting with how can I help you is such a powerful, very, very simple way, because then you pass the control back to the consumer to say, here's what works best for me.
Yeah, perfect. And so last but not least, I'm interested if you have 3 simple things that businesses can do to be more inclusive in the retail sector.
I can always make things into 3 simple things, though they're not always the simplest things. I think, obviously the start with the basics. So treat all customers with respect, help the organisation right across the service staff understand difference and understand how to respect customers, and where that might be falling through at the moment. So, Dave and Julie particularly were talking about being ignored by customer service staff and having their carers or their friends being talked to when they had asked questions or they were engaging. And that's really quite simple stuff I would hope to fix. That's a little bit of education and a little bit of guidance. Most service staff do want to do the right thing. They just might not know how.
Yeah.
So that's the basics. Let's just cover off the basics first. Treat all customers with respect. Secondly, listen and gather insight. So, find the listening posts that you have to listen to customers with disability. If you don't know how to do reach to open, we have a user testing panel, a consumer panel of almost 400 people now, had disability of all sorts of demographics, ages and other needs, ways they adapt and preferences. So, it doesn't need to be a huge program to be able to do that. It doesn't need to be hugely high cost, but establish those listening posts to know what sort of variance and experience you're providing to your customers. And then you can choose, once you're aware of the friction and the barriers that are being created, and also the delight, making sure that you are more consistently on the side of delight and more, effectively removing those barriers.
Brilliant. So there's lots for people to think about there. As you say, it's one of those, I think people get worried, like it's a journey, isn't it? And people need to start on that journey. And there's lots of those 3 simple steps you've given already there for people to get involved. But I think it's also just to engage with Purple Tuesday and start sharing the love, really.
Yeah. And in fact, what I'd give them one more as well, which is, if you think about basics being protect from the minimum, the listen and understand where the barriers are as that kind of midway of ensuring that you've got more consistent customer experience. I think there's another layer as well, which is really, this is a large market. Yeah. This is a very valuable market. You could quite specifically go and target this market. And we're seeing a number of very, I think, the smarter organisations, the organisations that are further along in their maturity of awareness in this space, are actually creating products quite specifically for people with access needs. They know that there's higher loyalty. They know that there's, once they've gained the trust of this customer base, they're very likely to keep it. And word of mouth is very powerful in the communities. So, organisations where they're creating products specific to people with various access needs, where they're creating services that are specifically designed, or quiet spaces and physical environments. There are ways in which you can really look for those delightful moments and really actually quite specifically going out and targeting this market.
Brilliant. Well, really congratulations for coming up with the idea of these podcasts. I've learned so much interviewing everyone, and it's been amazing to bring it together and then share it with the world as well. Is there anything you'd like to to finish off by saying?
Oh, I guess I would probably reflect that straight back at you and say, actually, we've learned, you've learned, I've learned. We work in this space all the time. And I think that's the powerful thing. And this is showing that actually Purple Tuesday has been powerful because we've learned by going through this process ourselves. And simply that listening, it just kind of reinforces what we know. But, you can't ever kind of fully know this market. It's this ongoing unraveling of needs and preferences and likes and dislikes. And also listening to the organisations and the challenges that they're facing and the things that they're excited by. That it's really good to have the conversation.
Absolutely, and it'd be interesting to see how Purple Tuesday goes, right?
Absolutely, and for any organisation that's not engaged in it this year, in fact, we were talking to an organisation this morning that said they didn't feel quite so prepared for this year. It's a very large national organisation, and they couldn't quite do what they wanted to do meaningfully for this particular round of Purple Tuesday. I think it's just going to grow in momentum because they really do want to engage in it in the future. And if you don't know what to do, as say, we've got some tips there just with starting with the basics. But get involved if you're worried about it being too close to this one. Start thinking about and preparing for the future ones.
Yeah, it's here to stay, right?
Great.
Thanks for your time, Christine.
Thanks so much, Martin. Take care.
Bye-bye.